Good morning, everyone. Woo! That was not professional. Let's jump right in. Hey guys, welcome to Wake Up Missoula. I'm your host, Scott Ramp. We're here to usher into the new day. It is time for Wake Up Missoula time. I hope you guys are going to have a good weekend. We're on the cusp of Valentine's Day. I believe we're going to have I believe it's on the 14th. This is coming from a guy who never really celebrates Valentine's Day. But that's nor here nor there. Starting off with some bad news in Turkey and Syria as a 7.8 magnitude earthquake and following tremors resulted in more than 20,000 confirmed deaths as of Thursday night, ripping through the cities that border Turkey and Syria. Thousands of buildings have been collapsed, and rescue efforts began over the last weekend. In one instance, a pregnant mother and her whole family were killed as the rubble was being cleaned up. Her baby was born while the mother was being crushed by the rubble, and the baby was still found alive, connected through the umbilical cord for hours afterwards. So the baby was rushed to the nearest hospital, was put under care, and is expected to make a recovery. The World Health Organization has stated that more than 23 million people will be affected by this natural disaster. It is February in that part of the world. The average temperature is reaching as low as 30 degrees on average. Searching will continue, but some experts say that the seventh day begins to wrap. Many folks could succumb to their injuries and the elements. In lighter news, that fake ChatGPT Seinfeld parody got taken down because the AI-generated text fell in the category of that goes against the Twitch standards of content. The fake character brought up transgender issues as a mental illness and attacked the liberals for questioning their sexuality. In the age of the internet, many topics are discussed en masse, so going into this and many edgy topics was inevitable consequences of AI-generated technology based on all the information that gets imported into the computer. I did show a little bit of it last week, and from what I saw, it basically brought up topics and reacted to the topic, and laugh tracks were terribly timed with an emphasis on stand-up routines by Larry, the Jerry Seinfeld parody, doing the stand-up. So overall, this new technology, and I don't know if AI understands the right or wrong thing to say anyways, so it's an auto-generated based on a cumulative human input from the internet, so yeah. In balloon news, I mentioned that it was a weather balloon last week, and I just wanted to say that it's pretty much the U.S. and Pentagon confirmed that this was a spy balloon. Our Missoula elected officials went so far to call for a defense committee meeting by John Tester. Gene Forte went on Tucker Carlson and Danes threw some shade at Biden administration that said a clown could have handled that balloon better. Many Montanans have taken to social media and said that they, if it was up to them, they shoot the thing down as soon as possible. And of course, this last Saturday, the balloon was seen over North Carolina. U.S. government, Biden stated that he wanted to shoot it down as early as Wednesday of not this week, but the week before. And the U.S. government said that Saturday they were going to shoot it down and cover the ocean for the potential population. But a lot of this stuff is old news, and so as we're going to go a little bit further into this, and thus far China's relations are on very weird terms, with the latest Chinese Defense Ministry said it refused a call from Austin after a balloon was shot down because the U.S. had not created a proper atmosphere for dialogue and exchange. The U.S. action had seriously violated international norms and set a pernicious precedent. A ministry spokesperson was quoted as saying in a statement issued late Thursday. So that's the latest on that. And Biden's polling was just very bad and unfavorable after this result. And he also did the State of the Union speech on Tuesday, which he basically kind of had main topics he kind of discussed, but one of the big takeaways from it is that he was booed by his GOP constituents, GOP Congress folks, as he mentioned them in terms of attempts to cut Medicare and Social Security. He didn't mention names, but he said that they had them right where he wanted them and encouraged them to do the vote for best interests of the American people. However, GOP makers law suggested that the cuts with these particular programs within Medicare and Social Security, rather than the sum total of the motivation of looking into these programs and just making sure that they were up to code and making sure that they're moving forward. So a rise in retirement age and other voucher systems were floated in the 2012 and 2013 as a means to evolve the current system, as the reality of boomers getting older and older, and the U.S. population is much smaller in contrast over the last 60 years. So the speech remained focused on infrastructure and creating new jobs in the Midwest as the U.S. plans to open semiconductor factories, as the CHIPS Act is meant to handle the market that is too reliant on outsourcing. China, Taiwan, Taxes should also reflect the billionaire paying less than the average student teacher. The school teacher should stop. Also going after big pharma and oil companies, but that also goes into the fact that Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont, is also the head of committee that will be going after big pharma moving forward. So if he gets fired within the next few months, he's doing his job. So finally, the police angle, where the mother of murdered by police, Tyree Nichols, was there. And the quote was saying, "Equal protection under the law," and that one last one got both sides standing and cheering to reform our justice system on the streets. So let's jump right into the Montana legislature. A new House bill is being floated around to get folks to spill the beans or berries in terms of where they get their huckleberries. So Montana is known for huckleberries, and many tourists love that juicy, sweet, and tangy fruit that cannot be grown, only gathered. Now with the HB 94, this don't ask, don't tell berry patch system will change with a large move to remove protections. Folks wanting to sell their berries must give up their source or patch, to be more specific. This is also going on the heels of some of the legislation that says that the farm stand, in which you have to get a permit to even open a farm stand, you can't just go out there and start doing that. When are they going to start going after the little girls selling lemonade? Who knows? Huckleberries come from bear poop, as many in those many patches that grow are often around the areas where bears frequent. However, with this bill, many more people will be able to go out and pick their own berries rather than buy it at a markup at the farmer's market across the state. And I'm only mentioning that it's marked up because it basically doubled in price from one summer to the next. It's ridiculous. I used to be able to get like a half a pound for like $5 and like a full pound for $10, and now it's like as high as like $30 for like a pound. So it got pretty ridiculous for sure. But that's kind of the news that are happening around here and around this city of Missoula and Montana. Let's jump right into our video, and it's a bunch of our stop animation kids from over the weekend. And a promo for our Spring Flicks camp, which we're doing a spring break camp during spring break. It's gonna be from March 20th to March 24th. Your kid can sign up. It's between the ages of 8 and 14. It's a great experience for kids to learn stop animation, but also some live action, and do basically, it's like making a movie. And then, you know, how much work they put into it, they get out of it. So here is the tease, and when I come back, we're going to talk about some movies.
Get back here.
Hello humans, are you looking for a creative outlet for your children? Kids get to let their imaginations run wild in stop animation, live action, or blend them together. All sorts of wonderful things. Sign up online or call for more information. For 5 days in the middle of spring break, we will have a camp at MCAT.
You're not doing anything, you're just pretending to do stuff.
Welcome to the world of employment.
Hey guys, welcome back. Let's jump right in. We're going to talk about some movies that are coming out this weekend. The thing that'll kick off the best Valentine's Day for the ladies out there, Magic Mike. Welcome to the world of Chippendales, but not Chippendales' version of Channing Tatum's youth turned into a series of dance stripper movies that will get white women envious of Salma Hayek, in which they want to kill her and be her in this movie. Jealousy is like envy, but with the balls, and gets balls in your face in this movie about exploiting men and expecting your man to have a 12-pack because reasons. We have Seriously Red. While Elvis impersonators exist, this one's for the ladies. This whole weekend is pretty much for the ladies as we dive into the life of Dolly Parton wannabe. From an independent film circuit to the wide release, watch this gal become something else. A country darling, a protector of joy, a bright night. Cue Batman music. Anyways, I assume folks are like, "You can't, Dolly." And she retorts, "I'm working 9 to 5 and now I'm working for me, my time." Dolly Parton, tears, 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 and make an understanding about people's delusions of become somebody else rather than the better version of themselves. Moving on, speed round. Husera, the Bone Woman. No need to have an erotic version of this title as we deep into the horror film about a pregnant woman who begins to believe her baby is evil. But she probably goes crazy because those pregnant hormones makes you crave weird foods, and in her case, bone broth. Then we got She Came from the Woods. Let me guess, there's an evil witch lady that comes from the woods and terrorizes some people in the 1980s summer camp because nothing ruins a summer camp experience like horror films. I mean, I honestly think the 80s horror films are the reason why summer camps don't exist anymore, or the sleepover camps anymore. Then we got Mordecai. Old people trying to use technology. I'm feeling triggered. Judge Hearst is an old man in the glorified iPhone commercial, the movie. It's also nice to see Judge Hearst. He's a great actor. I got nothing bad to say about Judge Hearst, but it's just another one of those movies. All right, so those are the movies that are coming out this weekend that you'll probably just be like, wait, what did you just say? You're welcome. Moving on, let's jump into a comedy from 1962, A Pair of Briefs, in which I redubbed this movie. And here's my next segment, dubbing stuff. To the owner of the white sedan, your lights are left on.
Oh, I do this every time. Come on. Excuse me. It's not my fault the door's loud.
I'm assuming we can proceed now?
Well, yeah, I actually lost my train of thought, so I'm not sure. Where was I going with this? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Your Honor, could we excuse the witness for right now? I have no more questions.
I bet you didn't have any questions to begin with.
Well, I guess if you're so adamant about answering questions, why were you trespassing?
I plead the fifth. I have no more questions to answer.
And I object, Your Honor. This isn't fair. He trespassed my property. I agree to property.
Please sit down.
Your Honor, tensions are running high. I just got a few more questions for the defendant. I would like to submit some evidence into the report. Spencer, please.
Oh, yes, sir.
As you were.
Here you go. Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you...
Oh, please, forgive me. Well, I wish we can throw him in the jail. But ever since Congress passed that pro-clumsy bill, all sorts of shenanigans have happened in my court as of late. But I will remind you, this is my court. Oh, may I speak, Your Honor?
Yes?
I am very sorry for interrupting your court proceedings. Please continue. It's not your fault. The Jar Jar Binks Act of 2001 really changed the game up in the court proceedings. It made it kind of a joke.
Well, if I might continue, sir, I have reasonable proof in the form of this letter right here that states, "Hello, I have trespassed on your property, and I will do it again. Ha ha, aha, aha, LOL, XL, all that kind of stuff." I assume he was meaning XOXO, but he was taunting the victim.
Well, that's more of an inside joke between me and my fat friends.
Are you a fan of Gossip Girl?
No, I do not personally watch it, but my friends do, and they really like it, and we have an inside joke, which is XLXL. Like, XOXO, but because they wait. I'm a big guy myself. Would you say XLXL to me? Because it ain't that funny sometimes. Some of us struggle with weight. Sure, it's the idea of less calories and maybe working out more, but, you know, it's a little bit more complicated for those who... Can you not? I swear to God, I'm going to have you removed from court. It's not about being clumsy now. Now it's more about disrupting my proceedings. Is this the kind of lawyer that you want to be in the future?
Your Honor, I must apologize for my, yeah.
Am I really supposed to think that this is the newest dance craze that's going around? Because it's...
Get off here. I'm sorry.
Will you just please stop? You're making a buffoonery of my courtroom.
Your Honor, may I excuse myself? Oh!
All right, I'm going to have to call mistrial. This is unacceptable behavior by a prestige lawyer like yourself.
But, Your Honor, we have this defendant dead to rights. We can't just throw this out just because of some bug.
Well, let me just say this to you. You're bugging me, and I don't like that one bit.
Oh, Your Honor, very cheeky indeed.
Well, if you can promise me no more outbursts, you may continue the proceeding.
Well, you see, your defendant clearly trespassed and glowed.
Get off me, get off me. Yeah, that's a stupid bug. The stupid bug, get over me.
Your Honor, can I just go home?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. The bug's on you. That's why I'm hitting you.
Excuse.
Hey, welcome back. Let's talk about some city council. So we're going to kick off with some public comment. We're getting some people from the residents of Missoula, far and wide, from students to residents to people on fixed incomes who are definitely struggling to live in the current Missoula city. So here is Travis Mateer kicking things off.
I bet having to deal with the public in person makes you nostalgic for the pandemic days when you got loads of emergency money, which you shoveled out in no-bid fashion with little to no accountability, and you even got to buy a nasty motel for a pretty big price tag, and the dirty hordes just had to stay home and take it. Well, if the resounding no of the crisis mill levy is any indication, the public in Missoula is no longer keen on just taking it, and they made it known. Maybe you think that's a flash in the pan. I think it's just the beginning. And when the dam of narrative control finally breaks, maybe the public will finally see the humans you've helped disappear. Humans like Sean Stevenson, a black man who was euthanized inside a private hospital by the public Missoula County Sheriff's Office on January 5th, 2020. Once they see, they will have to act.
So Mr. Mateer, one of our members has called a point of order. What is the point of order?
Point of order is inappropriate. Naming of people, allegations of euthanasia. Completely inappropriate to our code of conduct.
Okay.
Euthanizing black people in a town that cares about them.
You have
very
to
offensive.
Point of order. All right. So what we're gonna do.
All right. So yeah, that was Travis Mateer talking about that. Let's refer to my notes. Where are my notes? There we go. Although Travis lost his temperature to the meeting, at the beginning of his quotes were very clear that the pandemic made it very harder for folks like himself and the city, given a lot of relief money for temporary fixes that are no longer financially sustainable. This also goes into the argument that good intentions could have negative consequences. In many cases, Missoula is able to afford these programs that already exist, regardless of options of necessity. So Hannah Merrick, student leader from the university, did a survey that covered 1,200 students at the University of Montana and talked about just how, life on campus and living in the city of Missoula is as a student.
Some of the data we gathered shows that 75.6% of students in the survey disagree that affordable housing is available. Specifically, graduate and second-year undergraduate students are most concerned about finding affordable housing. Non-binary and genderqueer students struggle to find affordable housing more than other groups. 63% of students participating in the survey disagree that tuition costs are affordable, and 46% of students participating in the survey have experienced food insecurity while in school due to a lack of financial resource. It should not be surprising that these priorities are all financially based, and a study done in 2020 states students facing housing insecurity have higher rates of anxiety, depression, worse health outcomes, and lower GPAs in than their housing secure peers. Students who drop out of college despite succeeding academically commonly report that costs associated with living expenses such as housing impacted their decision to leave school without a degree. Obviously, that research shows that many of these priorities have to do with financial issues. Lots of the other surveys just consisted of campus life, but at And we gathered these were the 5 priorities we would be taking to the legislative session. 1, maintain the constitutional right to a clean and healthful environment. People should have access to safe and legal abortions. Montana minimum wage should be increased, and state licensing requirements should not be removed from medical professionals, teachers, etc.
All right, and a majority of the students in a 2021 survey saw that there were 7,000, more than 7,200 students currently on campus attending the university fall of 2021. But you know, not only students are suffering under growing debt, but longtime renters are reeling from being pushed out. Here's Dan Paul Newman, who complains about property management companies that are pushing him out, and this is what he had to say.
So I just want to say that you have to show respect for out-of-staters moving to Montana and becoming Montanans. 36 years here, I am regarded as a Montanan in every other state. Here, I am a resource. And I'd be glad to debate it. We never debated with the old city council. They just listened or didn't listen, I don't know, but never responded once in 5 years. Not once. No one in the council ever responded anything I said. They took my son, and I came to the city council, not because they're the ones responsible, but because they were the only voice that I thought I might have. I'm not under that impression anymore. We'll never be friends. You took my son. Then you kicked me out in the cold on January 2nd last year.
All right. So he went in length to talk about some of his story, and overall Missoula has become a hard place to live, and the closest thing the city has done to help financially keep people in homes was United Way of Missoula Central Housing Solution Fund, which was approved by the Housing Trust Committee. This is one of those programs that put people ahead of creating affordable housing, which is kind of like a short term is better than making these folks wait for potential displacing even more people. And that seems to be a growing trend in Missoula. It's like, oh, you know, we're going to be building a whole new affordable housing, but we're displacing the current people that happen to be there. And you know, it's not as easy as just moving people around. It's as thinking about trying to facilitate where are they going to move, just because there's the ever-growing list of people moving to Missoula, not to mention the growing list of people waiting to get into a proper rental property. And a lot of times, like, if you can't even find a rental property and you don't have an address, you can't even find a job if you lose your job. So it's really hard for a lot of people. And yeah, you know, it's just moving forward. And you know, that's basically the kind of like the part of the public comment. And you know, I got to move on to more of the other things that are happening within the city of Missoula, in which they're very concentrated on this whole ban on plastic bags. And so here's Stacey Anderson with City Council talking a little bit more about the Montana legislature on the concept of the oversight the state has been doing on local communities being able to ban things like single-use plastic. Here's Stacey Anderson.
This is really a two-part issue. It's giving local control, local government. We're the body that is closest to the people. We're elected by the folks who live in the community. We are engaged daily with the folks in the community. We're the body that knows what's best. And to take away our right to engage in the conversations and deliberations within our community is an overstep of the legislature. And so this is one way in which to give those rights back. And there are many examples, not just in the area of plastics, where the legislature has overstepped. And I think that, you know, having these opportunities for these forums and committee meetings, we are so much more accessible than the legislatures. We meet every week, almost every week, year in, year out. And so this is not only to talk about local control, but talk about the fact that the science is there about the plastics being harmful to our environment, and how that we are directed by the Montana Constitution, which we all swore to uphold, to make for a clean and healthful environment. And I think the proof is pretty obvious that plastics are directly interfering with that. So we're bringing forward this non-binding resolution of support to add to the record, and hope that there are positive efforts through the legislature to not only give us back local control, but local control on the specific issue.
All right. And so, yeah, like the Montana legislature meets every 2 years, so it makes it even more infrequent to be able to get too much done, and usually any kind of thing that does get done is budgeting for the next 2 years in the state of Montana. And think about it like in terms of public comment is to city, as city is to state. So in a lot of ways, the state of Montana kind of views the city of Missoula in a way as how the city unfortunately sees Travis Matier. That's a pretty wild claim right there, but regardless of that, I just want to make sure that it's like there's a lot of places in like the state of Montana, you know, like Missoula kind of feels like it's a bubble compared to the other places in the state of Montana, just from my perspective. So, you know, so moving on, let's talk about the importance of banning wood stoves from back in the day. This is one of the other things that were kind of like joined a lot of communities together and being like, hey, this actually was a really positive impact for a cleaner environment. And Lee Brown, a resident, talks a little bit more about that history.
Missoula County banned wood stoves on October 1st, 1994. And many of us were here at that time and remember what the air was like. And because of that ban, we were capable of improving the air quality of Missoula has improved phenomenally. We just did it just for the city of Missoula, even the Seagley Lake area. They were not required to follow that banning. And so what that tells me, and the legislatures have never gone back and said, no, you can't do that. House Bill 407 is a ban on bans, which the legislature does not wholly embrace. If they did, they would stop us. And recently, there's legislation. I talked about this before, that now they've passed on the regulation of e-bikes on our trails. They said, we want you guys to decide. So my point is that it's really not a ban on ban. It's a ban on specific things that they don't want us to make decisions on. I can't figure out how it would be any other way. I was thinking, well, I wonder if they would ban us banning drag shows in Missoula. I'm just going to bet that they would not stop us from doing something like that. I don't know. I'm just guessing at that.
All right, so it's basically the whole idea is that in a lot of ways, if the state government agrees to be like, wait, you can't ban that, then they can do so. You know, almost unilaterally agreed across the citizens of Montana that the wood stove ban proved to be pretty effective in keeping our air clean and around our community. Lee also mentioned that Article 9, which supersedes the right to clean and livable environment from our state constitution. So all the city can do is make a resolution to state government to consider the repealing of HB 407, which, you know, a little bit of background, was passed in 2021. It's basically public to city as city is to state. So moving on to city, spoke briefly about the Higgins corridor. And so here is Aaron Wilson talking about these final pushes before we put a proposal out for a grant. So right now it's all about planning, and there's not going to get any kind of construction unless they get money for this. So here's Aaron Wilson.
This is a hard decision. You know, it requires change. It's not, there's not enough room to do everything for everyone. And so what we set out to do is try to evaluate all the pros and cons of different changes and try to pick a concept for the corridor that works for all of those different goals, including safety, including business activity, including accessibility, different circulation movements, including motor vehicle and parking. All of those things were factored into our decision making, and we tried to do as much research and analysis as possible on all of those. So as I said, on Wednesday, we can make an informed decision based on all of that evidence and all the input. And hopefully you had some time to read through the comments that we sent along. As I said, I think we had 160 or 170 pages worth of public outreach results from the last 2 years of conversations. So we've been talking about this a lot. We've talked to a lot of different people. And not surprisingly, there are a lot of different views and a lot of different opinions. And some middle ground, but you know, we can't accommodate every interest on this corridor, regardless of what decision we make.
Yep, and you know, of course, last week they kind of dove into a little bit more about some of the issues in terms of parking, and said Aaron Wilson was quoted in saying that there'd be a maximum of 20 parking spots that would be removed to accommodate better bike lanes and a safer space and narrower lanes for folks to drive through. Parking is a sensitive topic in the downtown area, and mitigating traffic was one of the ways the city can affect more positive change than negative. The negative being losing 1 more minute of travel time, and they base this on the single lanes that they were divided into during the bridge construction. So Mike Nugent, City Council, takes aim at the Higgins to Brooks via the bike lane. So, you know, some of those areas in which it could be very difficult to kind of weave in and out of the the traffic as well. So here is Mike Nugent.
And one of the questions I heard today was the intersection of Higgins and Brooks, and specifically if you are leaving downtown and going down Higgins, we're going to have a lane, we believe, that goes straight down Higgins, and we're going to have a lane that turns right to go down Brooks. And there's the bike lane. And the bike lane, if I remember right from the conceptual drawing, feeds back into the lane earlier on that block. Does that sound about right? Can you walk us through that intersection? Because the concern was, we're going to set up bike versus car conflict when we've got a green light, a green arrow, and the bike's trying to.
Yeah, and this is one of the areas where we had some challenges in the design. We wanted to maintain that capacity and that right turn onto Brooks as part of the Highway 12 corridor. But you have the issue there with a dedicated right turn lane. What do you do with the bike facility so that you don't have that right turn conflict? And so what the design currently proposes is continuing the protected bike lane all the way up to Brooks, and the cyclists would cross with pedestrians in sort of the same space. But we could use a dedicated bike signal. So similar, we have one in the state that's currently in operation. It's on South Avenue where the trail crosses diagonally. So
all right, so that's one of the solutions that they have moving forward on this potential bike lane and some of the issues. And it's a weird street, and regardless, is like you got Higgins, and then you got basically Higgins, and then right across the way you got Brooks, and it's just like straight line, and then boom, you just basically do a cross that crosses the whole entire uptown Missoula area. It is kind of ridiculous to look at if you really look at it at a map. It's like it really kind of throws the whole city planning off a lot of ways, and there's way too many malfunction junction intersections throughout that whole Brooks corridor. So it's a whole thing. So yeah, I mean, this is one of the things they're trying to improve, the Higgins corridor between that Brooks crossing, but then also a big part of that would be go towards the bridge. And overall, the kind of like the whole area and making sure it's like slow down traffic in the downtown area. And I think they just want to encourage people to slow down and actually take in the downtown area rather than using it as a through street for interstate travel. So yeah, so far if they get federal funding via the RAISE grant, this is part of the Biden's Build Back Better and Missoula, Montana Department of Transportation. This could take 6 months to a year. However, this proposal is only a proposal, and they have the plans, and depending if Missoula gets the grant money, I mean, I won't bore you with any further details, but so far it's kind of like that's where they're at right now. So let's actually skip ahead. I'm not going to worry about those clips right now. Because I'm running out of time, I feel. So we're going to jump right into committee meetings, and this is budget committees. And so with budget committees, you know, they talk about this and that. And then right now, one of the bigger things is that the ward boundaries. So we're growing. The city of Missoula is growing. It's inevitable. We're getting larger and larger. And a big portion of those population booms are happening mostly in Ward 2. So part of that is that Ward 2 is having a higher boom in population compared to the other wards, and now the city of Missoula has to basically redistrict and redraw many of the boundaries. And so here is Mark Hendrickson with the city planning, talking a little bit more about that. And here is a kind of like a city ward boundary map.
In terms of equitable distribution of neighborhoods represented by wards, Ward 1 represents 6 neighborhoods, Ward 2 represents 3 neighborhoods, Ward 3 represents 3 neighborhoods, Ward 4 represents 6 neighborhoods, Ward 5 represents 6 neighborhoods, and Ward 6 represents 5 neighborhoods. Here's a map of the residential development that took place in 2021 and 2022. Yellow points represent single-family development, and orange circles represent multi-dwelling units. The larger these are, the more dwelling units associated with them.
All right, so without him talking any further, a big chunk of this is all Ward 2. A lot of this space is going to be encroached upon, and they're going to be moving a lot of this ward right here, the lighter kind of teal up into the pink. And they're going to try to figure out the best way to kind of reflect, you know, our growing population. Hey, you know, Airport Boulevard, the Mullen Build Project, there's just a whole bunch of new property that's happening in the city of Missoula. And as we jump right in, you know, last time they did a ward boundaries, it was roughly 12,800 people per ward, with adding upwards of 2,200 dwelling units, and the new average is roughly 13,900 per ward. So it's a pretty big jump, and we have about roughly 86,000 residents. Ward 2 has a 13% increase. Ward 6 has a 6.8% increase. This is out of the 86,000 residents in Missoula. The lowest, if you're curious, was the percentage decrease comparatively, which was between Ward 3 and 4, which had a 10% less than the other growing parts of the Missoula area. So Ward 4 and 5 will get some of Ward 6 people near the South Johnson Street and 4th Street, but Ward 6 will get some of Ward 2 people from the Mullen Road and Palmer Streets. Without talking a little bit more about this, Dale Bickle talks about changes in population and some of the trends. Yeah.
The population increase between the last 2 years, 4,800 people. I mean, that is double, I think, what our kind of pre-pandemic, don't quote me on that amount, but we used to go along at, 1,000, 1,500 people a year. I mean, that is a big difference. However, I think the way we have started to lay this out, I think we're not going to have a drastic change. And I think, if you recall, I think last time we did this, we were expecting it to change more, but I think we have set the stage to if we rotate the clock, we won't see drastic changes.
Yeah. So I mean, right now, of course, the pandemic, everyone wanted to get out of the bigger cities and go into more smaller communities and just kind of get away from the hustle and bustle of everything. And so that was a big, huge chunk of people moving to the city of Missoula, like just 4,000 plus people within the last year or so. It was pretty ridiculous. And many projections of population were only based on pre-pandemic numbers and with the infill of people we're trying to keep up with the ward boundaries. And so basically this is kind of like bookkeeping. They do this every couple of years to be like, okay, which ward's growing here and there? It's like, okay, we're going to have to handle this at some point. And then, they just, yeah. And so far, this is just in the planning phases, and they're trying to figure out what they can do to make it more equitable across the 6 wards of the city limits. So let's jump right into climate conservation and parks. The cost associated with the Northside pedestrian bridge, it's going to be expensive. They had to close it for emergency services, and it's going to be expensive if they take it away, replace it, do all sorts of things. David Selvik, the Parks Services and Systems Superintendent, gets asked questions by John Contos about the basic lifespan and just kind of where we're at right now.
What was the projected life of this bridge?
Councilman, I don't know. The original design was, didn't contemplate maintenance. It would appear winter maintenance. I just couldn't tell you. What I am designing for, what we are designing for, is for at least a 50-year life cycle. We believe that's what the balance of the structure has on life cycle.
I see. The only reason why I asked that question, it seems like we've had some issues with the bridge before with using salt or something like that, and something had to be replaced. The steel flooring, metal flooring.
So yes, a component of this project is to replace the decking that is failing.
All right. So yeah, I mean, it's an overstreet pedestrian bridge. It was a way to connect the north side to the rest of downtown Missoula area for people on bikes or walking or any of that kind of stuff as well. And a big thing was like they were mentioning that they're going to have to create a plan, and so far the money going into this initial plan is going to be $107,000, and overall the overall cost is going to be $3 million for this new concrete support. And they had to close it because it was deemed unsafe. And this is the one that goes right over the railroad tracks in the downtown Missoula area. And so it's interesting. But he did say that this new design could have a structure last for 50 years to come. So it's a balancing act. It's like, oh, do we remove it? Because that would cost just as much, if not more, just a removal of a lot of that stuff too. And not to mention it would hold up, train tracks and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I can't imagine what we went through just to put it up there in the first place. So it's kind of like a mess, and we have to deal with it. It's one of those situations like we can't just ignore this. And so housing redevelopment and community programs, jumping right in. So there's a lot of different topics happening right here, so we're going to jump right in. And so this is Emily Harris-Shears with Community Planning. She works with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. They went to move on the centralized housing solution, which basically helps keep people in their rentals and their homes. But they're talking about a new trailer park and to keep residents in their mobile homes. And this is what she had to say.
So in late December of 2022, NeighborWorks Montana submitted an application for the reserve balance. They requested the available $181,550 to support the acquisition and conversion of a current mobile home community in the Franklin to Fort neighborhood into a resident-owned community. And the $181,000 is just one portion of their financial stack that will support the purchase of this community.
All right, so a part of NeighborWorks is the whole point is to help pool a lot of the residents' resources and also get some grant money to help pay for their lots and lands on the property. And so, you know, you have a property owner who owns the land and then they rent out the space per the lots on the thing. So it's they subdivide it themselves on their own property. And so when the property owner decides to sell, a lot of people are just like, oh, you're in mobile homes, you can just get trucked away and everything like that. But mobile homes are meant for folks who have a are basically, what's the right word for it is like expected affordable housing. So this is programs through NeighborWorks is good because it is existing affordable housing and it keeps affordability in place. This would not put people out of their homes as newer affordable housing would keep the status quo with an emphasis on property ownership. So Emily talks about the people in this particular area, and this is her summary of that.
So at this point, the full request is needed to be able to finalize this project and really in a meaningful way for residents. And they felt that this model prioritizes choice in the community and has, you know, the residents of the community are actively involved, and ultimately it's their decision to go forward with this purchase and acquisition. So there's a strong sense of self-determination and resident voice and involvement, and it's ultimately their decision.
All right. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of like, and the decision is very much like this. Like, and NeighborWorks did a presentation a couple months ago, and I talked a little bit more about it, but I'm going to repeat it here again. And one of the major takeaways from NeighborWorks was the fact that, you know, it's like rent's going to go up. That's inevitable. You can pay for the property, and then you could own the property from under it. And part of this NeighborWorks program is that they would invest in, it's kind of like a land trust in which once you pay off your mortgage, you essentially would officially own it without being beholden to anything this or there. And then you have basically city act as like a retainer in a way for that funding with the grants moved towards this. And so essentially, if you were to keep the status quo, which, you know, most people are just like, oh, let's keep it as is, well, let's not worry about this, the rent would double just like that. The property management have been pretty bad to a lot of communities, and trailer parks are no exception to the rule. And part of that doubles the pricing, and being able to buy this property, yes, the rates will increase, but according to NeighborWorks during the presentation, your increase would be about 50% increase comparatively to a whole 100% increase. So let's imagine you're paying $400 a month for a mobile home on that property, which sounds pretty nice for a whole mobile home, but that's the point of a lot of mobile home parks, is that they have that affordability, and then they would jump up to $600 rather than the whole $800 and potentially $1,000 for some places. And I'm just kind of speaking from what the NeighborWorks presentation has. I'm assuming you have your own pricing, every deal that's going on here as well, but a lot of it is like a fixed affordable housing kind of situation. So the last topic with the new acquisition of the Montana Rail-Link Triangle also includes this site with the Montana Rail-Link Park on the southern 4 acres and a variety of buildings on the north acres, which includes the winter warming shelter for the emergency winter warming shelter that the city does through the Operation Shelter. And it's a former site of the Sovereign Hope Church and partially unused warehouse structures. This is a big portion of it, and it's going to be what's called delisted. So Tyler Walls, he's the brownfield specialist, and he says that he's talking about the acquisition and the full acquisition of this former industrial site for the Montana Rail-Link. So without further ado, here is Tyler Walls talking a little bit about this site. And if you look closely, you'll see the image of the triangle.
The city-owned property listed as a low-priority state Superfund site by the Montana Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ. The federal grant and state delisting process requires the city to procure the services of a qualified environmental professional to coordinate and oversee the implementation of the Voluntary Cleanup Plan Remediation Proposal, also known as the VCPRP. In 2017, the city purchased an 11.42 acre midtown property known as the MRL Montana Rail Link Triangle. The site includes the new MRL Park on its southern 4 acres and a variety of buildings on the northern 7.4 acres, including Camp Make a Dream, the former Sovereign Hope Church, and partially unused warehouse structures.
All right, and as you can see right here, like the park's pretty much already been established, and so they're pretty much a third of the way done, if, you know, roughly a third completed with the project. And so the northern part, they're going to be able to utilize the space once it gets cleaned up to use it for all sorts of different kinds of things. And FYI, this is an area in which the emergency winter shelter lies off of Johnson North Street. This will not cost more than $200,000, which will cover through the Brownfield Cleanup Grant. This former light industrial site will be redeveloped by the city of Missoula. Talks about, and then of course here's Tyler, once again Tyler Wall. He is talking about the plans for the future of this site, despite the park.
Into the Fort Infrastructure Plan in 2016 provides badly needed redevelopment to one of the most underserved neighborhoods in the city. The 2018 MRL Park Master Plan was developed with extensive neighborhood input. And the 2019 housing policy, it provides an opportunity to implement many of the policy's recommendations that will achieve mixed use, mixed affordable, and market race housing model. 2018 Pedestrian Facilities Master Plan, it will allow the city to bring the Triangle's pedestrian facilities up to code. 2016 Brook Street Corridor Plan will implement many of the plan's recommendations, including increasing housing supply, improving pedestrian bicycle connectivity, and redeveloping underutilized properties.
All right, so that's a big part of it too, is the Brooks Corridor, and that's a major project I spoke about last week. And Brooks Corridor is basically not only just making a bus lane for transit, but it's going to be a whole comprehensive change to how we travel down Brook Street. Also the uptown development in general, and how they want to see the master plan moving forward in mixed use residential, and it also improve just the overall site to be available to open up businesses. And I think that's the one big thing about it, is that one of the things about near the Brook Street and the uptown areas is that it's hard, apparently, according to their study last week, that to open a brand new business in the uptown Missoula area. So that's one of the things that they were looking into as they were talking about this. So the city will work with the consistent collaborator WGM Group and develop this, due to be complete by fall of 2024. So if you're interested in learning more about this, you can go to ci.missoula.mt.us. Up next, we have a tease from Music in Missoula. So it's a show that I produced with a former Sentinel High School band teacher and current city band director, Gary Gillette.
If it's written out and piano part doesn't suck, Meg's in, it's good. But if the piano part sucks, which is usually the case, it's just there's just too much stuff, and then trying to coach her to play less. And piano players aren't necessarily used to that. Hey, play less. See all that stuff on the page?
Ignore that.
Ignore that crap, okay? And just play these two little notes here and there. And whatever you do, you can leave the left hand out. Take a look at the band, and you turn around, there's 18, on some days, hell, there's 25 people sitting in our band. You don't need to cover parts. You don't need to fill in the harmony, because it's all right here.
It must have been moonlight and led me straight to you. I still hear you say, dear one, hold me fast. And I started praying, oh, let this moment last. We seem to float right through the air.
All right, so there you go. There's a little taste of Gary Gillette's show, music in Missoula. You guys can check it out on our YouTube page, MCAT TV Missoula, and more. So we're going to jump right into your events that are happening here in the city of Missoula. Kicking things off is the indoor boat show at the Brits RV and Marine Missoula. They've been talking about it, probably advertised on TV and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be happening all weekend long. It's going to be happening Friday, February 10th through the Monday, the 20th, and it's closed on Sundays. So they're going to be all sorts of having their boat show. So Stroller Strides, Mommy and Me workout class, Bonner Park. They do this every Friday. They have a bunch of other events as well. This is for women who gave birth and just want to get out there and get active with other mommies. Classic Hoop Earrings is going to be a lifelong learning center. Lifelong Learning Center is a great opportunity for folks to learn some new tricks and also just have an additional education to put another feather in their cap. Classic Hoop Earring is their topic of that as well. So Family Fun Time as Mismo Gymnastics. They have a bunch of indoor fun, including at the YMCA, Family Fun Time at YMCA. It's a great indoor activity for keeping kids active during these colder times for sure, especially if they're not adverse to going down a snowball or skiing and stuff like that. So there's that. Empower Place is part of the Missoula Food Bank and Community Center. So it's more than just a food bank for people to be able to go down there and get some fresh, nutritious, affordable food, but also a way for people to have experiences and also have some branch community serviced events. I did a cooking class there. It was great. They have a beautiful second floor worth checking out. Tiny Tales and Story Time, second floor at the Missoula Public Library this morning at 10:30 a.m. Every single Friday, 10:30 a.m. Get your kids excited about books. Yarns and Watercolor, again, every single Friday at noon, and it's on the 4th floor. Stitch, crochet, or if you just want to do some painting and watercoloring, it's a perfect place to do it. You have MTDSA and Best Buddies Valentine's Day Dance. Lowell Gym is free and open to all abilities. Pleased the Montana Down Syndrome Association is pleased to present the Valentine Dance to Remember. Celebrate inclusion and friendship to the hits with DJ Kyle Martins. We will welcome families, friends. See you at Lowell Gym. Missoula Makers Market. Come enjoy shopping handmade gifts for Valentine's Day. The Missoula's Makers Collective pop-up show features 12 local makers selling everything from art prints, jewelry, clothing, home decor, and more. Pearl Boba Tea will be featuring the limited edition Valentine-themed drinks for the occasion. The event runs from 5 to 8 p.m. It's going to be at the Missoula Makers Collective and the Pearl Boba Tea shop downtown. Galentine's Day at Hearts of Fire Pottery Studio. Galentine's Day is considered to be anti-Valentine's Day. We like to think of this as a day to gather your best girlfriends and celebrate the awesomeness of the ladies in your life. Join us to celebrate and paint some pottery and stoneware or paint your own canvases. Backcountry Film Festival. The Wilma is presenting a Backcountry Alliance in Winter. Wildlands Alliance, the Backcountry Film Festival, showcases the power of human and their spirit. Films will feel outdoor stewardship, grassroots policy, and advocacy works. Backcountry adventure and snow cinema by human-powered advocates, athletes, brands, activists, adventurers, and outdoor enthusiasts alike. And that's at 6 p.m. tonight at the Wilma. Beth Lowe is going to be at Beth Lowe and Dave Horgan, who is going to be playing some jazz and cool music over at Tin Spoon Winery tonight at 6 p.m. It's Up the Rattlesnake. You can't miss it. Worldwide Cinema. Missoula Public Library is doing a movie night, and their movie is going to be Moon, 66 Questions, and it's a Grease movie. Legally Blonde Jr., the musical, MCD takes the original take on the Legally Blonde movie with Reese Witherspoon and turns it into a children's show for you guys to enjoy. And that's going to be happening at 7 p.m. at the MCC Center for Performing Arts. Miscast, if you want another show, they're doing a Zootown Arts Community show. I Think We Should Break Up is a musical cabaret that uses music of Cher, Amy Winehouse, Bruno Mars, The Beatles, and many more. This kind of show that happens as an original show over at Zootown Arts using popular music. 10 Cent Mule at the Old Post, bluegrass music. Joan Zen is going to be at Union Club tonight. Brandon Jackson Band is going to be at the Sunrise Saloon. Saturday markets and stuff. Get ready for homemade home buyer class. So not homemade, but home buyer classes. So if you're interested in learning how to buy your own home and get a $5,000 grant, Homeward offers a monthly course. I took this many years ago. It helped me buy my house back in 2018. It is a great program. Anybody can do it. And, you know, it's great. And they also give you all the tools that you'll need to help pay for your house and look into all sorts of opportunities to do so. Heartthrob 5K. Silver Park at 10 a.m. on Saturday. Procedure will go to the center. The center is an open, affirming environment for peoples of all sexual orientation and gender identity expression. The center fosters safe inclusion and welcoming space for community members to focus on identity development, self-care, empowerment, leadership development, and overall wellness. Weekend eco-friendly printmaking demo. Zootown Arts is doing a printmaking demo starting at 11, and it goes until about 3 p.m. It's taught by Laura Grace Barnett, resident artist Keith Bushwell. The Zach Laura Grace Barnett print shop will lead a demonstration to the eco-friendly printmaking methods of saline etching and chine coal. These demonstrations are free and open to the public of all ages and all skill levels starting at 11. Saturday storytelling at Travelers Rest Storytelling. Today it is going to have poet Corey Williamson, The River Where You Forgot My Name. MCAT Saturday drop-ins at 1 p.m. It is a great opportunity for kids to drop into MCAT here in the studio to basically make their own stop animation like I showed you at the beginning of the show. 1 to 3, it's a drop-in. Kids can pop in and do some stop animation. We facilitate creativity with fun little Legos and toys and all that sort of stuff. And we always encourage kids who have been here before to bring some of their own stuff that they want to bring inanimate objects to life, just like the old Rankin and Bass Rudolph and Frosty the Snowman and Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I'm not going to list them all. Moving on. Banshee is going to be at Free Cycles. Banshee Tree Hardwood Heart at Free Cycles is a Colorado-based transcendental gypsy rocker, so it's indie band. It's going to be at Free Cycles. Is another pair up with Missoula's own exploratory bluegrass band Heartwood Heart at Free Cycles, and it starts at 6 p.m. It's going to be a $10 cover to get in. And then Missoula Fencing Association is doing a fencing thing starting at 6:30 p.m. Stab your loved ones. Salsa 406 Dark Horse, and learn and enjoy some instructed salsa dancing in Missoula. It's going to be at the Dark Horse, which is on the other side of the Sunrise Saloon, which will be hosting Brandon Jackson Band's country music. So Uncle Funk will be at Union Club, Solid Steak Karaoke at the Westside Lanes and Fun Center, DJ Chris Moon every Saturday. And then we got the Super Bowl on Sunday, so it's going to be cray-cray with some things happening at the Jack Saloon, at a noon party. We've got Sunday Fun Day at the Crankenstein Public House and all sorts of other things. But I'm pretty much sure that most people are going to host their own events at home, so enjoy your Super Bowl between two teams. I don't care. I'm sorry, I just don't care. Anyways, here's something that you may or may not care about. It's a nice little tease from our own Josh Cook. And I will wrap up my show. So thanks for joining me. And for Wake Up Missoula, I am Scott Ramph.